everyone at least 1 clock in the room, so we will call our meeting to order. If we should encounter an emergency situation, we will exit the building. There's 2 sets of doors off of the lobby there, and if for some reason those exits are not available, we do have another exit behind council. Our muster point is located near the gazebo in Lions Park, and if we are evacuated for any reason, we will not re-enter the building until we're given an all clear from staff. I also want to note that this meeting is being recorded. The recording may include your image, voice, or other personal information. This information is collected under the Protection of Privacy Act. If you have any questions about this, please contact the town's Access and Privacy Coordinator. And next, we will move into the land acknowledgement. Councillor Iwanicki. Ready? That's okay, I'll pass you mine, hold on.
Thanks. I was distracted.
Bear with me here.
Yep.
Councillor Ostindi has my paperwork.
Councillor Ostindi coming in clutch. All right. So the town of Sylvan Lake respectfully acknowledges that the land in which we gather is Treaty 6 territory, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. These lands are the traditional meeting grounds, gathering places, and travel routes for many nations, including the Cree, Dene Blackfoot, Métis, Saulteaux, can never pronounce that one, and Nakota Sioux. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and those who have gone before us. We acknowledge and thank all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
Excellent, thank you very much. Next, we'll move into open microphone. Open microphone is an opportunity for residents to address council on an issue pertaining to council business. We have a maximum of 15 minutes total for open microphone and up to 5 minutes per speaker. With that, we do have 2 signups tonight for open microphone, and the first one is Mrs. Moore. Welcome. You are familiar, but if you can settle up, turn on the microphone, you'll see the time clock is just starting over here on the wall. Just wait till the countdown is complete. You will hear a number of beeps, and then we're happy to hear from you.
Hello, Madam Mayor, councillors, Dawn, and town staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Pamela Moore, and I live at Unit 120, 5210 Lakeshore Drive, Sylvan Lake. We have spoken in length at prior council meetings about our fear for the safety of residents, community members, and visitors due to the easement through Water's Edge Villas. This fear came to fruition not long after our last open mic at council. On May 24th, 2026, a young gentleman was trespassing at Water's Edge Marina and Villas when he impaled himself on the fence trying to leave the marina. This situation could have ended a whole lot worse than it did for this young man. With the increased traffic on the road and in our area, the risk of future incidents is greatly increased. We have previously addressed council regarding the easement agreement between Water's Edge Villas and the town of Sylvan Lake. As noted, this agreement is outdated and no longer reflects our current situation. The town's purchase of the adjacent property now provides public access to the Lighthouse Park, the waterfront, and the surrounding green space. With planned lakeshore development, including a potential boat launch, traffic in this area is expected to increase significantly. Addressing this matter now will help prevent further challenges as usage increases. Public access to the lake should be directed through town-owned property rather than through private property. To my knowledge, this is not a common practice elsewhere in town. There are already several public access points along Lakeshore Drive that connect to key amenities such as the lighthouse, public docks, the green space, and the farmers market. It is also important to note that the current easement provides access along a roadway, not a designated sidewalk or a pathway, but a road. At the previous open mic, it was mentioned that the developer and landowners are responsible for sidewalks and pathways. Water's Edge paved and has maintained the roadway and roundabout for over 13 years without financial contribution from the town. As the town owns the adjacent parking lot, We support your idea that a sidewalk on the east side would better serve both residents and visitors. Based on past practice, the town would typically be responsible for providing a sidewalk on the east side of the parking lot for residents and visitors to use. The Water's Edge Condominium Board has proposed what we believe is a fair solution to terminate the existing easement agreement, with the town assuming responsibility for any future sidewalk or pathway development, while the condominium repairs or replaces the fence and installs the movable gates at each end of the road. We hope to reach a mutual beneficial agreement, and I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we'll start with any questions for clarification. Councillor, and I will note before we get to that, we do have this an agenda item later this evening, Council, so we will have the opportunity to receive all information. Go ahead, Councillor Ostindi.
My question might have been answered by some wording that you used at the very, very end. You are presenting a position of the board officially, am I correct? Yes, okay, because I know that's been one of the issues of when residents come to us. In the case of Water's Edge, it's a communal ownership, so we always have to hear officially. Thank you, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Bilodeau.
Hi, Pam. You mentioned May 24th, someone getting hurt, leaving the marina?
So the fence around the marina inside the villas is shared property. When they were in fishing, jumped the fence into our backyard and was...
Okay, thank you.
Council, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, we have Mr. Rosa. Welcome. You know the drill, but just wait for the beeps and then we're happy to hear from you. Just get you to hit your mic there first. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Hansen, members of council, Don Phillips, and town staff. My name is Wendy DeRosa, and I am an owner and member of the board for Water's Edge Villas. I'm speaking this afternoon regarding the motion presented to council regarding the termination of the trail easement agreement. The board members, residents, and I have spoke at many town meetings to address the ongoing safety issues, vandalism, near misses, and significant costs we have incurred because of the trail easement. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak again today and advocate for our residents regarding the termination of the easement agreement and closure of the path on our private property. We would like to work with council and hopefully come to an agreement today that considers both parties while terminating the agreement. We have been notified by Don that a new path on the east side of the parking lot would cost approximately $25,000. The costs associated with the maintenance and vandalism repairs of the trail easement have been shouldered by residents over many years. The current cost to replace our fence from vandalism in 2025 is upwards of $30,000. Gates will also be required once the easement is closed for emergency services, and we will agree to pay for gates. Therefore, costs will escalate to approximately $50,000. There has been no financial support from the town over the 13 years the easement has been traversing our property, even though we have hundreds of people each day accessing the easement. The complete financial burden has been placed on our board and residents. The current fence repairs will require a special assessment of the owners to cover the costs. However, we are willing to overlook the historical costs incurred by our residents to get a closure agreement in place if the town will fund the new path in its entirety. Closure of the trail easement is of top priority because of the safety issues it poses to our residents as well as others. Our proposal is for Water's Edge board and residents to pay for the approximately $50,000 in current costs associated with the fencing and new gates, and for the town to fund the construction of the new path. Based on the current number of tourists entering our property daily, we feel closure of the trail easement should be expedited to avoid any more tragic accidents on our property. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Council, do we have any further questions for clarification? Seeing none, thank you very much. All right, Council, next we'll move into adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? Councilor Johannesson.
Yeah, I would like to add an emergent notice of motion to the agenda regarding paid parking.
Excellent. Let's add that under our last business item. No, I would add that. We don't have a section for it here.
It can go into the business items.
Great, we'll put it at the last business item, sorry. Okay, any other additions, Ms. Phillips?
Yes, good afternoon. I'd like to add pilot project golf cart bylaw amendment to the agenda, please.
If I could, we'll make that item N, and then if we can make Councillor Johannesson's motion after that, just to keep with our standard format. Okay, excellent. Any other notes, Council? The vote on the emergent notice of motion will take place at that agenda item. So, with that, would someone like to make a motion to adopt the amended agenda? I really had to think about that. We did a number of mock council groups through here today, and what we learned is grade sixes cannot say amendment. So every time we tried, I'd say change, and now I'm trying to flip back to the right word here. It's really a challenge. I believe Councillor Payne has had his hand up for that. He's got a motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor? And opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the consent agenda. Council, as a reminder, this is an item used to increase meeting efficiency. Anything marked with an asterisk on our agenda is an item recommended by administration to be approved as part of the consent agenda. But if you have any extensive questions or you'd like to debate any of the items, I will ask that you remove those prior to the motion being made. Council, is there any items we'd like to remove? I'll start with Councillor Bilodeau.
I'd like to remove the request to waive parking fees, please.
Yes. Any additional items? Seeing none. I do note I have two simple questions on it that I don't believe cause it to be pulled. So after the motion is on the floor, I will ask those two questions if that's okay. I expect quite straightforward answers, hopefully, or more information back. Would someone like to make this motion? Councillor Iwanicki, thank you.
All right. I move that the 2026-06-09 regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, that the 2026-06-16 governance and priorities meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, that council adopt the Citizen of the Year policy C001002C as presented in AIR 1432, and that council repeal policy C001002B, that council approve the Transportation Support Program Policy C-001-004E as presented in AIR 1425, and further that policy C-002-004D is hereby rescinded, that council approve the amendments to the Neighborhood and Roadway Naming Policy as presented in AIR 1437, that council approve the street naming request within the 60 West neighborhood as presented in AIR 1437, that council accept the first quarter financial reports for the period ending March 31st, 2026, as presented in AIR 1417, that council repeal the social club policy H003005, that council approve the council computer usage L002004B, I assume that should be usage policy, with yes, noted changes as presented in report AIR 1421, and further that the council computer usage policy L002004A is hereby rescinded, that council approves the electronic meeting attendance by Councillor Mearns for the meeting of July 7th, 2026 for the purposes of working out of town, that council approves electronic meeting attendance by Councillor Payne for the meetings of July 7th and July 14th, 2026 for the purpose of family care.
Excellent, thank you. My two questions I'll jump in with. One is around the Transportation Support Program policy, and my question is this program sufficiently funded, or do we have a wait list because of lack of funding that is substantial?
Hi, through the chair to Mayor Hansen. So it is sufficiently funded. Our issue is, which we've kind of changed a couple things in here, is that some people are on the program but not using it. So we're trying to get rid of that to get people off the wait list onto the program.
Fantastic, thank you. And my additional question is under the roadway naming policy ask. When can we expect the name bank that this motion is really because we don't have that in place yet? Do we have a timeline?
Well, good evening, Mayor. The naming committee has not met since the policy was approved. So we will be meeting likely in the fall. At that time, we'll begin to, create the name bank, and then we'll bring it forward to council for approval. So we want to make sure that we add some names, also maybe take into consideration some indigenous consultation before we add any indigenous names to that list as well.
Do we have a timeline when we might expect to see that back?
Through the chair, no, I don't have an expected timeline, but hopefully by the fall that we would have met and begun that process.
Okay, thank you. Council, any additional questions? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we will move into the public hearing and delegations. And we do have a public hearing tonight. The purpose of this hearing is for council to receive public input regarding proposed bylaw 1953-2026, being a bylaw to amend the town land use bylaw 1695-2015. The hearing was advertised in the Silver Lake News on June 4th and 11th, 2026. I now declare the public hearing open. First, I'll invite town administration to give us some background on the proposed changes.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this public hearing is for bylaw 1953-2026, and this bylaw proposes to redesignate a portion of the 60 West neighborhood from future designation to public facility district. The proposed redistricting will help facilitate subdivision for the development of a stormwater facility required to support future phases of development in the 60 West neighborhood, as well as open space. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Here is the process we'll follow tonight. Anyone who wants to speak will have up to 5 minutes. Each person will speak only once. We'll hear from people in this order. First those in support, then those opposed, then anyone else who feels affected. After that, administration may speak again if required. Council may ask questions after each presentation, but only for clarification. And there will be no cross-examining, debating, or questions from the audience. Once this hearing is closed, council cannot accept any more comments, written or verbal. Before we hear from anyone in attendance, I'll ask administration to read in any written comments that were sent in ahead of time. And there was none. I will now hear from anyone who is here in support of bylaw 1953-2026. And one more call. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in support? Next, we'll ask to hear from anyone who is opposed to the bylaw. And one final call for any opposition. Finally, is there anyone else here who does not fit into either of those categories but feels they are affected by this bylaw and would wish to speak? Last call for anyone else in attendance who wishes to speak to this bylaw. Great. With that, I will now declare that the public hearing is closed. As a reminder, council will not receive any additional comments on this bylaw now that that hearing is closed. Please note that any comments made tonight, we didn't have any, so I can probably skip this portion. Thank you. Okay, next we move right along to business item 7A, and that is discussing the very same bylaw. Welcome back.
Thank you. So this presentation is for council's consideration of second and third reading of bylaw 1953-2026, which proposes to redesignate a portion of the 60 West neighborhood from future designation to public facility district. The applicant is requesting the redesignation to support a future subdivision application for the development of a stormwater facility and open space. The storm pond is required to support future phases of development in the 60 West neighborhood. A portion of the redesignated area is also intended for open park space, which will contribute to neighborhood amenities and count toward the municipal reserve requirements for the area. The proposed redesignation aligns with the approved development concept in the Waterford Station outline plan. The application was referred to internal departments, external agencies, and adjacent landowners. No concerns were raised through the referral process. Administration respectfully recommends that council grant second and third reading of bylaw 1953-2026. The proposed resolutions are included in your agenda package, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, council. We'll start with any questions for clarification for administration. Councillor Stindy.
Just a procedural question. I think we all know the pond has already been dug. Why is the timing of designation at this point in time rather than, say, 2 years ago when it was dug? What's the normal process or protocol for that?
Through the chair to Councillor Ostindi, I can't speak to the operational capacity of the storm pond. I would direct that to Public Works if they would be able to speak to that. Basically, the developer has come forward with the indication that in order for future phases to move forward, that subdivision will be required to develop the storm pond to the capacity that's required to support development.
Did that answer your question, Councillor Ostindi?
Yeah, and I think what I'll do is I'll follow up with other questions to Public Works
Sure.
in our normal ways.
Sure, sounds great. Okay, seeing no additional questions, would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Payne, thank you.
Move that council grants second reading to bylaw 1953-2026 as presented in AIR 1436, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 to redesignate a portion of the southeast 30-38-1 west of the 5th from future designation to public facility district.
All right, we'll open it up to any debate, council. Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Do we have an appetite for someone to put forward third reading? Councillor Mearns.
Make a motion that council grant third reading to bylaw 1953-2026 as presented in AIR 1436, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015 to redesignate a portion of the southeast 30-38-1 west of the 5th from future designation to public facility district.
Final opportunity for any thoughts, comments, council? Seeing none, all those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move to Bogaba Park Phase 4, Roads and Parking Lot. Mr. Tooney and Mr. Lebsack, welcome.
I am definitely not that tall. Your Worship and Council, I will just start off just with a little bit of clarification. So we did hand out some additional items there for you. They pertain to this topic. The one there is the Bogaba Park Phase 4. It's a spreadsheet on the budget. And then the other two are the maps showing the actual area of the operations yard. This also is part of the report. So I guess the other thing I would say before I hand it over to Kyle to do the report is just for clarification as well, up top we use the word design 2025 with the number there, and then down below we say engineering and testing. That should be in design, engineering and testing, so that's all that same number, just for clarification. And on that, I believe I'll pass it on to Kyle and then open up the floor afterwards for questions.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The purpose of the report is to request your approval to award the tender for Pogato Park Phase 4 roads and parking lot. Pogato Sports Park is a multi-use recreational facility that's being phased over several years. We've completed the first 3 phases and we're adding additional amenities this year. As part of this project, the scope of work will enhance and support the existing and current under development amenities. On May 28th, a request for tender was posted on the town's procurement website, and a notice was posted on Alberta Purchasing Connection as well. Administration advertised the request for tender in the Sylvan Lake News. Vendors were required to download the documents exclusively from the town's procurement website, and 16 vendors did so. The scope of work is listed here, but it's also shown on the one handout in the dashed lines as well. The tender was closed on June 11th, 2026, with 4 bids received on or before the closing deadline. The 4 proponents who submitted bids were Bettinson Sand and Gravel, Border Paving, Central City Asphalt, and Economy Paving. The town's consultant, WSP, reviewed the tenders based on their price and required document submittals. The bids range from a low of $3.3 million to a high of $5 million, excluding contingency and GST. The town's consultant recommends that the town award the contract to the low bidder, Border Paving, who provided all the required document submittals. The capital budget for Phase 4 does not have enough remaining funds to fund the tendered scope of work. In the report, we provided some financial numbers as well as on the handout, as Mr. Lebsack stated. Right now, we have a current budget shortfall of just over $900,000. Administration is proposing the budget shortfall be covered using the additional borrowing as part of the borrowing bylaw, and the rest of the funds coming from the corporate reserve. Tonight we have 4 options in front of you for consideration, and we respectfully recommend option number 1. The following motions are proposed as well. The council approves report AIR 1435 for a budget adjustment to increase the budget for Pogato Park Phase 4 construction by $901,700 to $8.301 million, with a budget increase of $901,700 to come from the additional borrowing of $870,000 and $31,700 to come from the corporate capital reserve. And the council approves report AIR 1435 to award the tender for Pogato Park Phase 4 roads and parking lot to Border Paving for an amount not to exceed $3,370,470, excluding contingency and GST.
Excellent. Council, do we have any questions to start with? Councilor Iwanicki.
Looking at your option 2, if I'm reading it correctly, are you saying if we went with option 2, we would reduce the budget request by almost $3 million? Or am I just misunderstanding that?
Through the chair, no. I think what we're suggesting is we would reduce it by the $509,000. That's what the removal of that operations yard, which is highlighted up there. It also includes that connecting road to Memorial Trail.
Additional questions, Council? Councilor Bilodeau, and then Martins.
That's all I wanted clarification. So thank you for all the additional information. So the roads A and C connecting the park to Memorial Trail, can you just define that? I'm looking at it and I'm kind of looking for roads A and C.
Okay, so through the chair.
Okay, just,
So the two roads that we're referring to would be, if you look at the colored map. Oh, okay, you got it? All right. And I was just going to say also for anybody that's more visual, when you go up there, we have a paved portion that goes into the playground spray park area, and that's unpaved when you reach Memorial Trail. We left that purposely so that when we redo Memorial Trail, we're not redoing work. That's the two sections, that's essentially that same amount on each one of those access roads to connect to Memorial Trail. So once Public Works does Memorial Trail, then we would connect those up and the whole thing would be paved.
Councillor Mearns.
Mr. Lebsack answered my question.
Okay. Councillor Cindy.
I just want to clarify the South Connector Road. What is that piece? South Connector Road?
So, through the chair, the South Connector Road will connect the parking lot by the Tournament House to the parking lot on the south side of Gull Stadium. So it'll run just to the north of the Slow Pitch Diamonds.
Okay, and just to clarify too, then I know we've had discussions in the past about the small baseball diamond, the 225-foot one, as being, and it currently is a parking lot. That's that connector then to that? Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Seeing no further questions, would someone like to take a stab at a motion here? Councillor Payne.
Move that council approves report AIR 1435 for a budget adjustment to increase the budget for Pagado Park Phase 4 construction CP 2613 by $901,700 to $8,301,700 with a budget increase of $901,700 to come from additional borrowing of $870,000 and $31,700 to come from the corporate capital reserve. And that council approves report AIR 1435 to award the tender for Pagado Park Phase 4 roads and parking lot to Border Paving Limited for an amount not to exceed $3,370,470, excluding contingency and GST.
Sure, let's start the conversation, Council. Councillor Bilodeau.
if we were to follow option 2, which would be to not proceed with the operations yard, ultimately, it has to be built. So the idea to not build it is just not to fund it this year. I just want to be clear on kind of the option, okay.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. It would just be not funding it this year and putting into the next phase of construction.
Okay, if we were to, sorry, I'm not quite done.
Go ahead.
If we were to push that off, what are the chances that the costs would go up?
At this point in time, we are expecting, well, we're seeing throughout the entire phase of this project roughly 3% per year in increasing construction costs.
Councillor Payne and then Ostindi.
Well, that's what my comment was going to be. It's in every phase of this, construction has gone up exponentially. So pushing anything down the road just simply means the 3 million we don't, or the 900,000 we don't borrow today is 1.2 million we borrow in 2 years when we have to do it then. It's just one of those things that the longer we kick this down the road, the more it's costing us. So I just think that as difficult as it might be and as hard as it is to see these numbers will simply get bigger as we go forward. So getting it done and getting it processed and getting it used is the best thing to do.
Councillor Ostindi.
Question I could have asked earlier, what is the value of the connector road in terms of if we didn't do that piece? Because it is listed what the ops yard is, but I'm wondering about the connector road, the south one.
Yeah, through your worship, The exact numbers, I don't have those on me, but it was not, it was less than the $500,000 that the operations yard in that section would cost. We're probably, I think the numbers were between $350,000 and $400,000.
Do you have an additional?
More want to debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me jump to one more question and then I'll hop to you next, Councillor Oostende. My question is around the operations yard. I recall there being some operational savings from bringing this on site in terms of staff going back and forth across town. Can you refresh my memory on what that looked like and the efficiencies we hope to see?
Certainly, Your Worship. Right now, all our equipment is stored over in our operations yard, over on the commercial side, and we bring that equipment over, not necessarily every day, but certainly weekly. We don't store things on site long-term there in terms of our mowers and our field equipment, as well as all our supplies are brought over. So yeah, every week we're hauling and spending manpower and labor hauling stuff over and hauling stuff back again. If we get the operations yard there, then that's where we will store materials, and we'll be able to store more materials. We'll be able to store shale, some clay, some other base materials on site, and won't be hauling them back and forth from the yard.
Councillor Oostende, do you want to kick off debate?
Yeah, I've been one to promote the growth of Pagado Park as well in terms of, you know, bite the bullet a bit, and especially this phase this year, this is a really big one in terms of turning the place from a construction site feeling to a park feeling. But I'm super uncomfortable with the extra debt load that we're putting on it. And trying to think what strategically is the piece that I would argue not to fund right now. And I'm leaning to the South Connector. The prominence of the connection to Memorial Trail, the efficiencies that we get from opening up the operations yard, having equipment on two sides of the town, especially Pagado Park materials, makes total sense to me. But I just think, like, we have so many priorities in our town, and, you know, we're not going to build, let's pick, you know, anything on the list that so many people ask us over the years, whether it's one of 10 things in the arts department or something else in other sports. I lean to deferring something, and I would make an amendment to defer the South Connector Road in that spirit.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Tooney and then Councillor Mearns.
Thank you, Your Worship. To speak to Councillor Oostende's amendment to remove that South Connector Road, if we remove that South Connector Road from the scope of work, we will not have access to that south parking lot. When we start construction of the parking lot 3, which is just north of Gulls Stadium, we will lose that access road down that we currently have to that parking area.
Sure.
Question then is the plan this summer to cut off that current access, the gravel on the east side of the Gulls Stadium then, and to make that only trails? Is that the concept?
That's correct. None of that work will take place until after the Gulls season. So for the remainder of the summer, that connection will still be there. But once we start construction at the end of August in that area, we will lose that access.
Question. The operations yard can be gravel or paved, and same with the entry level there. Just clarifying that point.
Yes, it would be the same standard right now as what the parking lot would be. Yeah. Or current parking lot is, yeah.
So procedure-wise, can I withdraw my amendment and just suggest it's the operations yard and entry to Memorial Trail? That's my amendment then, if that's procedurally okay.
Do we have a formal amendment? Not yet. Can I ask just a question of clarity? Is there any way we can bring up a map? I am a little bit confused between these two areas, and I just want to make sure I'm looking at, and that we are all speaking to the same thing, if anyone else is feeling that. Is there any possibility of that? Coming, thank you. And then while that is happening, Ms. Phillips, did you have a thought?
No, I was just going to say, so it was a formal motion to amend, but there's general consensus to withdraw, support withdrawal. Then, yes? Okay, then it should be fine to withdraw, and then I would make another formal motion, but maybe wait until the map's pulled up and everyone's on the same page.
Sure,
But
yeah,
yes,
have
that
some
should be fine.
conversation, then we can make that formally. Councillor Mearns, do you have some comment or debate?
You can wait until they bring it up because it has to do with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take your time. Everyone's okay to wait with Councillor Payne.
I'll speak now if it's all right.
Oh, sure.
I think kicking this down the road is just doing that. It's just kicking it down the road. What's going to cost $350,000 today is going to cost $500,000 when we decide to do it 2 years from now. I don't like the idea of it just being passed along. You know, you're taking from Peter to pay Paul, but you're paying Paul more than you're taking from Peter. I think we just need to get this done and get it used. Have it be a benefit to the community now instead of continually having to chip away at it. I don't like the idea of it being a piecemeal thing as we go. The other part of this is I feel like this is a token withdrawal of a piece. It's not for the purpose of anything other than to appear that we're trying to save when really it's not going to save. It's simply going to cost us more later. We've seen this over and over again with facilities when we start them, that budgets that we lay out when we start the process, 8 years later when we finish the process, have ballooned 30% more than they were when we started. This is the same thing. And kicking this down the road is just going to cost taxpayers more later.
Councillor Mearns? Oh, there we go. Okay, if you could point us out on there. Yes, we see the mouse, that South Connector Road.
So your worship and council, this is where the existing south gravel parking lot is right now. And this is the existing road that runs down through there, a gravel road. And what we're doing is when we create this parking lot, this gets turned into the picture that you see right there. And then this trail access will become an emergency access only. And it'll have essentially a trail standard at it that would allow emergency vehicles in the event of, you know, a blockage at one of the roadways or something. So it'll be an emergency access only. And all the trail, we don't have the updated map here, but all the road access to it will come down the south side of this. And this will be an actual paved roadway in through here.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mearns. Okay. Additional comments, debate. Do we want to provide any additional feedback on Councillor Ostindi's thoughts prior to a formal amendment? Councillor Mearns?
Yeah, I would agree with Councillor Payne. We had this conversation, I think we have it every time we're up for construction on, you know, do we postpone, and then the cost that seems to be creeping up year after year. So although it's a larger number than what we thought, I'm fine to proceed with the way the motion has been presented.
Question, if this is completed to the full scope, is that all paving on site now complete? Or are there any unfinished phases of paving?
Through your worship, there is this portion on the north side of the pipeline right away.
Okay.
Will still remain undeveloped and unpaved.
And I guess I am entering into debate on this, but really I'm thinking of efficiencies of doing a larger chunk together versus piecemealing it. Councillor Iwanicki.
I've never actually been there, so I might be wrong, but isn't that parking lot that's by the 4 Ball Diamonds, isn't that gravel too? Or is it already, yeah, okay, so that's gonna remain gravel.
Currently, it's correct. Currently, it is gravel. That's correct.
Right. Councillor Ostindi, were you looking to do a formal amendment?
Yes, I'll make an amendment to remove the paving portion of the operations yard and entryway.
Okay. For clarity, is that essentially option 2?
I'm not going to debate what option 2 is, because I couldn't see, unless I can ask tons of questions about that, but that was.
Sorry, I guess I was just trying to clarify in my mind, is what you're proposing essentially option 2?
No, because it talks about irrigation pump and those things I strongly agree with, because we're not going to put in soccer fields and have the sod dry up and die.
Absolutely. Ms. Phillips, oh, sure, Mr. Levesque.
Sorry, Your Worship. For clarification's sake, I was going to suggest that other than, yes, such as the irrigation well pump, it is essentially option 2. So there's a very small change there with the irrigation pump, but other than that, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Payne.
It's not the way it reads, though. It reads as though, with the change of scope, to remove the operations yard. So you're taking the operations yard out as well, and that's not what's being amended. What's being suggested is that the road not be paved from Memorial on that L into the operations yard. Option 2, to me, the way I read it, unless I'm reading it incorrectly, is you're removing the operations roads A and C connecting to Memorial Trail, and then of course the irrigation well pump for other things. So it's not option 2, because the intention is not to remove the operations yard. Is that?
We'll look to Councillor Ostindi for that answer.
I stated the amendment as the operations yard and entry roads there.
So he is looking to remove
So you are
that.
looking to remove the operations yard?
Yes, yeah, that's what I stated. That's the only way we could raise the amount of deferred spending of some 350 to 400,000.
Councillor Marins.
Can I just look for some clarity on that? The removal of the roads or the removing of the paving of those roads?
The pavement of those roads, yeah. Because that's why I asked the question about hard surface versus gravel.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Payne.
I'm unclear again then. Is the operations yard being removed? Is that the intention of your?
Paving of.
Just the paving of the operations yard? Okay, because option 2 reads as removal of the operations yard. So it's definitely not option 2.
So what I will ask is that council, let's take a 5-minute recess. And in that time, I'd love to get Councillor Ostindi's proposed amendment in writing, if at all possible, up on the screen. We can take as many minutes as we need. Because there's also some funding that I'm not clear on to be able to vote on that. And I think we need a bit more information. But to do that, we need to be clear on what the motion is. Mr. Lebsack, before we do that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes. So would you also like the actual pavement dollar figure that we can best guess at that would be for those? Because that would not be definitely not the number that's in option 2.
That would be great. Thank you. So let's take a recess. I'm going to say 5 minutes, but we will take the time that's needed to have that clarified so we all understand what we're voting on. Thank you. but that should be there momentarily. So maybe in the short term, Mr. Lebsack, did you learn any new information for us?
Yes, Your Worship. So Kyla and I looked up the exact numbers from the detailed bid, and just removing the paving from that portion would save $95,690, roughly between $95,000 and $96,000.
Thank you. It's coming. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Stindy, would you like to read your amendment?
Unless someone else is willing to read it, I'm not going to. What I was trying to do is to make a significant savings. In my head, if we were going to save 50 grand, it's not worth it to me. If we're going to save a couple $100,000, it is totally worth it to me. And this 95 is in that ugly spot for me. Am I allowed to speak for a moment more? Because this is a theme I want to put up, is that, yes, deferring construction isn't always the best thing to do, but deferring debt is sometimes something we have to do because it saves our limit. And we often say to other groups that, you know, we can't build a new library right now. We can't build a new archives. We can't build a museum. We can't build a performing arts center. We can't build anything because it's too much money. And that all is related to our debt limit. So yes, any one project, you know, we can argue should go forward for financial reasons and for user reasons. But at the same time, if we go forward in one area, we cannot go forward in another area. I always say we can have anything we want, but we can't have everything. And somehow we have to find the balance. And there's two major sports infrastructures in our town that we have promoted and pushed forward for many years and added a lot of debt for them, and I agree with it. And part of it is because of timing and circumstance. When someone hands you a chunk of land for free and then gives you a deal on the rest, you gotta buy it. And that's what Pogattle Park is. So let's keep moving on it. Yes, I agree with that. And Next Source Center, we're still paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest payments on it, but it collapsed. We had to build it. So I'm not saying we made bad decisions. I'm just saying we can't make every decision, and we admit it every day here. And this is one of those tough times. So I'm not putting the emotion forward because it's one of those awkward spots we're in again.
That's great. Okay, so we're back to the main motion that's on the floor. Do we have any other conversation we'd like to have around that, Council? Great. We have a motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. And thanks for working through that. Okay, next we'll move to request for budget adjustment, waste transfer site shelters.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am here today to present to you AIR 1426. The purpose of this report is to request Council approval for an additional budget adjustment to fund the replacement of the two shelters at the waste transfer site. In late October 2025, the two fabric structures were destroyed by an arson fire, and on November 10th of 2025, we came to Council for funding to replace the structures. Council approved a budget adjustment to fund the replacement of the two shelters for around $35,000 as presented in AIR 1261. After receiving approval, the staff accepted the quote from a company from Lloydminster that came in with a price around $35,000. In communicating with this company, we were told verbally that we would not need to pay a deposit and that the structures would be installed by the middle of December 2025. After months of delays in delivery and scheduling, the company finally agreed to install the tents this summer and asked for 85% payment before work started. Since a lack of communication and failed install dates, we have lost confidence that this company can give us the service and product that we are paying for. Since the lost confidence, staff has asked for new quotes and have received 3 back. The best quote is from Coverco Buildings out of Calgary for around $85,000, including a $10,000 contingency with an install date of late August. We have used Coverco Buildings in the past and we have no problems with their product or service. To complete the project, an additional $50,000 on top of the previous $35,000 is needed. We have provided council with 3 options for consideration and respectfully recommend option number 1. The council authorize an additional budget adjustment of $50,000 from the solid waste reserve for a total of $85,000 to fund the purchase and installation of 2 structures. And at this time, I will gladly answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Iwanicki.
I was by the waste transfer site the other day. Unless I'm crazy, isn't the drop and swap operating again?
They, through the chair to Councillor Iwanicki, we are operating on a temporary building. That's not a permanent. The permanent ones will go where the existing were, where the fire was. So.
Councillor Ostindi.
In the future, we're planning to rearrange the transfer station, change the floor plan of the place. Are these structures easy enough to move at, in our budgets, we talk, a couple thousand is cheap, but are they easy enough to move if we need to reconfigure their locations?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Ostindi, yes, they are just bolted onto the concrete pad, so we can take them apart and relocate them.
Any additional questions? Would someone like to put forward a motion? Councillor Mearns, thank you.
Make a motion the council approves an additional budget adjustment from the solid waste reserve of $50,000 in addition to the original budget adjustment of $35,000 to fund the purchase and installation of 2 shelters at the waste transfer site for a total amount not to exceed $85,000, including contingency, but excluding the GST, as presented in report AIR 1426.
Thank you. We'll open it up for any debate. Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the fees and charges bylaw. Councillor Johansson.
I just have to recuse myself for this for pecuniary interest, Ms. Phillips. Sure. Good, thank you.
We will come collect you shortly. Thank you. Mr. Lebsack.
Your Worship and Council. Again, just before I start off, I did provide some additional information on the map, and hopefully that provides a little bit more clarification on the locations of the fees. So again, following some feedback that we had and a motion to review the parking rates, taking some direction from council, we've come up with the following options. For the summer seasonal rates, zone 2000, we would go to an hourly rate of $10 an hour to a maximum of $50 a day. So keeping the $50 a day, but starting off as an hourly rate. Zone 2500, that actually in the report is a typo, should be $2 per hour with a max 2-hour time limit. And zone 3000, because it's farther away from the lake, $7 per hour to a maximum of $35. I believe the other ones, the seasonal rates there, $10 flat rate fee, $2 per hour with a max 2-hour time limit, and 2500 and 3000 is just $2 per hour, and the annual pass is $250. So again, as you can see, we showed the financial impact of that. Could be, depending on the season and how visitors come throughout, whether the sun shines or not is really telling tale there. Could be an impact of up to $425,000 in this year's budget. And again, we've included the actual fees and charges bylaw there with just the addition of Schedule P, which was just a coincidence. So the paid parking, Schedule P, is listed there in the actual bylaw. And again, it does include the zones 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, and the summer and the winter rates.
Thank you. We'll start with questions. Councillor Payne?
No question, just ready to put a motion on the floor when we're ready.
We'll check any other questions. Councillor Ostindi?
Question on the parking reserve status right now. What is its amount?
Parking reserve sits at, again, in round numbers, unless Mr. Moore wants to correct me, we're about 325,000 at this point in time, anticipated to be 600,000 by the end of this year, based on our current budget.
Councillor Abenaki?
I asked this the last time we were discussing, I think it was a couple weeks ago or last week, but I didn't formalize it to ask you to bring back any information, but maybe you looked into it. Did you check to see how many sessions, parking sessions that we had from like year over year, if there's been a big difference?
Through the chair, I did not look those up, but I do see them quite regularly off the top of my head. So we've been up every year except for 2023. We had a small dip, and then we went back up again to kind of our standard. And again, not that this means anything, but we sit somewhere around 825 to 900,000 parking sessions per year.
Can I just follow up? So you haven't noticed, and the answer could be because you just haven't checked. You haven't noticed a drop in the number of sessions, let's say since May?
Again, through the chair, for this current year, no, we haven't looked into that yet at this point in time.
Councillor Payne?
Just have a motion if everyone's ready.
Yes.
I move that council approves first reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1948-2026, Schedule P, as presented in Report AIR 1441.
Councillor Mearns?
Yeah, I won't take much time because we've talked about parking immensely. I just want to thank input from user groups, from businesses, from the public, all the work administration's done to bring this back to us in short order to get ready for the summer season. So everybody that's been involved, much appreciation.
Council, I'd like to propose an amendment because I have to at least try. You all know my opinions on this. I do believe that a bit more, I appreciate that we're taking steps towards making some changes, but I do still think that we have gone slightly too far on this, and to formalize it in motion, I'd like to propose an amendment that our Zone 2000 be $10 an hour, but a maximum of $40 a day. So there is a slight reduction in there. I do think that $50 is just out of the scope of other comparable communities. But I also believe in the winter, Zone 2000 should also have an hourly rate. And I think $2 an hour is consistent across all sessions to a max of a $10 a day flat rate. My amendment is on the floor. Would anyone like to discuss it? Councillor Payne and then Abenaki.
Is there a chance that you could separate those two pieces?
Yes.
Okay, if you can.
Just talk about the summer season Zone 2000, have my amendment be a max of $40 a day, $10 an hour, $40 max a day.
I'm not opposed to that because I do think the vast majority of people who come to visit in the summertime when it's a nice hot day are going to be there beyond that time anyhow. So I'm fine with the 40. I was fine with the 40 when we debated this originally. I think that a lot of the issues that we've had over the course of the last 6 weeks, the conversations we've had with businesses, with residents, have been about this exact thing, and I think this addresses and fixes what I believe was a quick oversight on our part. I think we went too fast with this. So I think your amendment is absolutely fine. I would support it. Okay.
Councillor Abenaki.
Yeah, no, I'm in support. My mind went elsewhere, so don't worry about me.
Thank you. Councillor Bilodeau.
I will say that I also will support that actually. In the beginning, when we first started talking about raising the rates, I was comfortable at 40. I will say I was swayed to 50 with the with some of the conversations that we had at the time, but I really do feel with all the feedback, and you see constantly on social media, people are angry, and that wasn't the intent. We never wanted to push people away. We didn't want to stop tourists from coming to Sylvan because it's too expensive. So I think 40 is a good compromise. So I would support that.
Any additional conversation on that, Councillor Mearns?
It's a tough one for me and swallow a little bit of pride because I was up for the 50 all along. I don't know if I introduced that, but I was up for it for sure for the 50, but hearing lots of feedback, I'm willing to go with the 40 and support that, and let's see what happens next year.
Councillor Ostendi.
I can support the amendment. I think one of the biggest things we've done to repair our relationships with our broader community is the hourly rate to the lakeshore, not even the max per day. It's the ability for a young family to pull up and stay for an hour or two and not look at a $50 bill. That is the most significant issue, is the hourly rate, and I can support the amendment because it holds that true.
Thank you. We've heard from everyone. We do have that formal amendment on the floor. To recap, that's Zone 2000, $10 an hour to a max of $40 a day. Heard from everyone, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. I'll move my second amendment, and that is the winter season rates, Zone 2000. Happy with the maximum of $10 a day as proposed, but I do also believe an hourly rate of $2 an hour would be consistent. And I'll just add my 2 cents in that. If you are coming to Sylvan Lake for an hour on a beautiful day on April 10th to park in that lot, to play in that playground, I don't think $10 is reasonable, and it's consistent to move to having an hourly and a full day option. Councillor Payne.
I don't think we have the same pressures parking-wise in the off-season that we do in the summer. I also think that when you think about where most people park in the winter rates, most people are not parking in the parking lots, they're parking on the lake. So I don't support a $2 per hour in the 2000s. I'm fine with the others. I would rather just keep the $10 a day flat rate in those lakeshore parking lots. With that being said, we also close one of the parking lots in the winter. That south parking lot gets closed, so I'm fine with that, and I think that it's not unreasonable to expect people to walk a block, or, like I said, in the thick of the winter, they park on the lake anyhow.
Any additional comments on that? Just note there is many months in that off season that you cannot park on the lake, but that our playground is well used. So that's really what I have in mind here. No additional comment, Councillor Ostendi?
I support the amendment. When you put a price tag on something, you push people to the free option. And if we have too high a price, you lose that profit. But by keeping it, like, what's a toonie to a lot of people? It is something to many people, but most people that are driving a car can pull off a toonie, and they're not going to say, well, I'm not going to park down at the lake and get a freebie anyways. So I like the hourly concept, and it fits in with my summer argument as well.
Thank you. Any additional comment? Motions on the floor. As a recap, that's the winter season, Zone 2000, $2 an hour, $10 a day flat rate. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Council. We're now back to our main motion. Do we have any further conversation? Councillor Iwanicki.
Kind of a question / comment to everyone. Did we ever sort out whether or not the resident-only parking was going to get sorted out in the winter time? Because I don't recall seeing that in this. Is that coming back? Okay.
We'll make sure it's brought back prior to the winter season, but we do have the notes on that to address.
So that, yeah.
I do have a follow-up. We asked if we could ask the company if that dynamic pricing model, a different Monday to Thursday rate, was a possibility. I'm assuming it's not in here because we've heard nothing back, but if we hear back, will we see this again as soon as we get that information? We certainly won't wait for that. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, to your worship, we will bring it back as soon as we hear from them. Our understanding from them is, in their words, it will take a little while to get that figured out. So I'm not anticipating something before the summer, but I'm certainly anticipating something in the future, yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Additional conversation on that main motion? Great, that is on the floor. Councillor Payne, did you make that motion? Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Councillor Payne. All those in favor? And opposed, and that is carried. I do have two quick follow-up questions just to note. One, the new version of the map, I'm still hoping we can adjust the colors of the yellow and the orange because online they still appear fairly close. And two, I have, as you guys have seen by the emails, had a number of business communications recently. And I am still really hoping we can formalize the fact that we'll do a business survey in the fall to discuss this. And I guess my question is, Ms. Phillips, do you need a formal motion from us to follow this, to ask for that business feedback survey?
It never hurts to have a motion in the books, and it definitely will. I'm making notes, but it's always a good practice to have a motion.
Council, as it is related, are you comfortable if I put that on the floor? It's not really through the notice of motion process because it's related. And in that case, my motion would be that we formally ask for business feedback no later than October 15th to be reviewed by council over the off season. Motion is on the floor. Any comments? All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Okay, we still have more work to do on here. Sorry, that first motion was for first reading. Would someone like to put forward a motion for second reading? Councillor Oostende.
I move that council approve second reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1948-2026 Schedule P as presented in report AIR 1441.
Any additional debate?
Just because I got to slip it in at some point. Just regarding the map that will go public in the future with the new rates, part of Lakeshore Drive has no parking on it. The section, I'll call it the south edge of Centennial Park, probably should be white, just like the other section of Lakeshore Drive, where there is no available parking, only drop-off spots. But there's a small portion of Lakeshore Drive that probably should be white, just so people don't look at our map and go, well, I'll check out that street. And there's no parking there anyways. But I also like the fact that we have a lower rate on the street near to that spot I'm referring to, aligned with 40th Street, because we've had interest by House of Music raising concerns about access for clients too, and that helps address part of their concerns.
Thank you. We have motion on the, okay, just making sure I'm at the right place. Sorry, I had to wait for my brain to catch up there. We have motion on the floor by Councillor Oostende. We will vote on that one. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Council, would someone like to make a motion to proceed to third reading? Councillor Iwanicki.
Move that council grants consent to proceed to third reading to the fees and charges bylaw 1948-2026 Schedule P as presented in report AIR 1441.
Any comments? Wonderful. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Finally, would someone like to put forward, everyone gets a chance to be involved here. Councillor Bilodeau, thank you.
I make a motion that council grants third reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1948-2026 Schedule P as presented in report AIR 1441.
Wonderful. Any last comments, council? All those in favor and opposed? Great, and that is carried. We will take a 10-minute recess and then we will jump back into the next item. Thank you. Business item H, request to waive parking fees. Ms. Calicut, welcome.
Good evening, Council. So I'm here with a report, a request, I should say, to waive parking fees. So Pride by the Lake has submitted an email requesting that the town waives parking fees for the one day of their event. They will have, or they're planning on having about 25 to 30 volunteers at minimum, plus a number of vendors. So that could be the DJ, for example, some of the vendors that are selling, and the performers. So their request to council is that council waives the parking fees for about 30 stalls at Lakefront Park. They would be responsible, or would be, the requirement would be that they would have to barricade off the space themselves and have a volunteer at that location. They have applied and have received a micro grant through the Community Services Committee. And so part of that requirement, or part of that stipulation, is that there's no other funding allocation, and therefore it comes to council for decision. So I'll leave that with council.
We'll start with questions, and I do have one. What do we do for other events? I'm thinking the farmer's market. Do we waive their parking fee, or do they pay a rate per evening, or how does that work?
So the farmer's market does have a contract in place. I am not familiar with all of the terms and conditions of that. That's run through Mr. Lubsack's department, so if he has that number off the top of his head.
Your worship, yeah, so we have an agreement with a lease agreement with the farmer's market each year, and it would not be equivalent to all of the parking fees there, but it certainly does. It's a lease agreement on the entire parking lot, and they pay a significant amount, yes.
Can you give us an idea what that rate might be on a per stall for a night basis?
I would not know on a per stall basis. On an annual basis, we're roughly $30,000. I think just over that.
Thank you. How many weeks do they run for? I'm trying to do quick math here. Okay. Thank you. I'll try and get close. Any additional questions, Council? Councillor Stindy.
Just thinking about, all events, like Lions have a family picnic. We used to have Jazz at the Lake there. The hockey tournament that just occurred, they occupy massive chunks of the parking lot, actually, in that case. Were they asked to pay $50 per stall where they had a hockey rink? Because that would be thousands of dollars per, hour before, but now we'll say per day.
Through the chair, so Battle at the Beach, for example, is not eligible for a microgrant because they're not a non-profit organization. In situations like that, we do work with event organizers, and those fees are typically waived, either in full or in part.
Yeah.
Great. If we have no further questions, would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Onicky.
That council approves waiving the parking fees for 30 parking spots at Lakefront Park for Pride by the Lake event on August 29th, 2026, as presented in AIR 1429.
Sure. Open it up for debate. Councillor Onicky, Councillor Payne, Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, I just want to say, as much as I appreciate a new event coming to town and support what they're trying to do, I mean, they've already capped out their micro grant, right? They're not even eligible for a further amount. So it does cause me a little bit of pause to say that we've already given you the $5,000. Here's effectively another $1,500. I know it's not quite that clean because we don't know what's really going to happen with the parking. But it does cause me a little bit of caution on this, just worrying that it may come for other events. Not that I want to discourage other events, though. That's the flip side, is we do want to encourage as many external events to come and try and take advantage of these programs as possible. So I'm on the fence. I could be swayed either way, is my point.
Sure. Councillor Payne.
For me, there's other areas in town where this event could be held that's not doing this, that's not putting us in a situation where we have to make an exception. When I do the math on the farmer's market, it's about $1,260 for each event. How many parking spots are there, Ron? How many parking spots ballpark do you think they take up? 100? So $12.60 per parking spot is what we get from them if you just go straight $30,000 divided by their events. So we don't give to an event that is there quite literally 30 times a year, 24 times a year. So I'm not fully in support of this. Am I in support of a subsidy? Maybe, if we can talk about that. But I'm not in support of a complete, like, we've already funded quite a bit of this event. So I'm not in support of another grant, which is essentially what this will be, an equivalency grant for these parking spots. So if there's another option, another in between, I'd love to explore that.
Councillor Johansson.
I'd pretty much echo those comments. I think that this could become a slippery slope with people putting on events and wanting to waive parking fees, which not only do we lose the money for those parking fees, but those spots are now taken up all day, so they can't be used by other people who would pay. So I think it could be a greater loss than even $1,500, depending on how many people pay and if they're paying daily, hourly, etc. I don't think that we're in a position to set the precedent of, or I guess we are in the position as council, but I wouldn't want to make that decision to set the precedent that we will waive parking fees for certain events. I think that's a part of coming to the events. When we go to, the Calgary Stampede, there's not waiving parking fees at those events, Calgary Zoo, etc. Lots of places you pay for parking to go to events, and that's a part of it. Regardless of if you're a vendor or not. I think that if we gave them a $5,000 grant, I'm not sure what they spent that on, but it maybe they could have helped some of their vendors with the parking with that grant. So I would be opposed to this for the main reason of setting a precedent that we would do this, and secondly because it's a part of the life and what we're doing with our parking fees. So I think they should have to pay just like everybody else when they use our lots.
Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, I would echo those same comments. The grant has already been approved, and they've received that. And that grant was tapped out, so it's not something that I'm in favor of.
Councillor Ostindi.
Yeah, I lean towards supporting some free parking for events, because this one in particular, but any events, if we want to see the vibrancy of festive events in our community, we can't throw extra barriers. As I read this report, the group was looking to make sure that participating vendors who already pay a business license to be a vendor would get a spot. That was, I understand, part of the need, and the other one was for the organizers themselves. And that's how I was reading. So maybe my question to understand this better is the 30 spots, how did the group see them being applied?
Through the chair, so it'd be a combination of vendors and volunteers. Again, some of those vendors could be Fresh Air Cinema, for example. They're the company that they're contracting to do the free movie in the evening for the families. It could be for the DJ as well. So it's a combination. They are looking at having 25 to 30 volunteers. Of course, they're always hoping for more, but really that's the number that they're looking at.
Councillor Mearns, and then Bilodeau, and then I'll hop in.
Do those vendors need to have a business license if they're at that event?
Through the chair, so special events, they can apply for a special event business license, and then any of the vendors would be covered under that.
Councillor Bilodeau.
When I saw this in the agenda, I think my first gut reaction was we're setting ourselves up, if we approve this, for others to come to us. And that was my concern. Also looking at the date of it, strikes me as a very busy time of year. Hopefully it's hot at the end of August, and it's lost revenue. So I I can't say that I support this for that reason, although, we don't want to turn special events away, but, and it's always about finding the balance. But I think in this situation, I just think that, I don't know if there is any solution for a relaxation, but I do know that we already gave a micro grant. So having said that, I feel like I wouldn't support waiving the fees for this.
Sure. I'm going to hop in and say, in general, I don't love doing a one-off, but in general, I do support this concept. One of the items that came up through our strategic plan is we are hoping to see less, well, maybe not less internal events, but we're hoping to see a higher percentage of external events being hosted in the town of Sylvan Lake. And I think one of the things that could sweeten the pot on having external event organizers be interested is having some sort of a formula that allows you, whether it's discounted parking, free parking. There has to be a way to capture what's the reasonable number of stalls for those that need to be right up close, and then what could park in a different space. But I do think that should just be part of our standard event formula when someone is bringing something to our community. We haven't done that until now, so that does make it a challenge to do an exemption, but I am in support of that being a blanket, not for one group, but across the board. We want more external events. Councillor Payne.
Okay, so I worked some of my English teacher math, which is not always great, so I'm going to ballpark it. If you went according to the same numbers for the farmers market based on what they pay and based on their lease and all these things, it's roughly about $500 is what we would be losing, in all honesty, because parking rates are also just changed. So with that being said, I would be okay with a $500 subsidy or a $500 grant, or something of the sort, which would work out to be about 10 parking spots. Actually, a little less than that, maybe about 12 parking spots. So, and with that being said too, the volunteers for this festival that are residents don't pay for parking. So there's that to consider as well. The vendors likely are coming from out of town, but any vendors that are local are also not paying for parking. So I would be in favor of a subsidy of some sort. So something like something equivalent to a dozen parking spots instead of the 30. Again, to try and encourage, some of that, and that in addition to the micro grant that was already granted. So I would be okay with a $500 subsidy.
So I hear you may be proposing an amendment. I'll give a quick round of conversation around that, and then if that's the case, I'd ask for us to take another quick recess just to make sure we get that straight. Councillor Ostindi, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I lean towards that idea, and I think we have to have the broader conversation. I nearly want to bring this out of consent agenda for that reason. Why one? Why not all? And saying for this one, because we haven't really dug in and thought hard, what does this really mean? Finding a number like 12 spots, and having administration take note of that to work towards something that's for every event, or some kind of blend, because whether it's on Festival Street, Centennial, wherever it happens to be near paid parking, we need to think about this, how to encourage volunteerism in our town, good events for our community, and so that's why I would speak in favor of this. So, yeah.
So maybe if we can just take a 2 or 3 minute, I'll ask for council not to go far, and really for Councillor Payne to maybe connect with Ms. Phillips and Ms. Calicut, just to see whether it's $1 or a stall number, how that works best, and then we can speak about the amendment and formally put it on the table. Councillor Payne, what do you have for us?
I have an amendment. I move to grant the event organizers a grant equal to 13 stalls at $40 per day, so $520 for the event, and recommend that the special event policy be reviewed to incorporate for future gifts in kind reflective of parking.
Council, we'll open that up for debate. Councillor Mearns.
This is just a vote on the amendment, correct?
Just a vote on the amendment, yes. Any additional? Great. We'll call the question. All those in favor of Councillor Payne's amendment? And opposed? And that is carried. We now have the main motion on the floor. Would we like to discuss further? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? Oh, that is carried, but Ms. Phillips? Oh, good. Thank you very much. Okay, now we will move along to the Organizational Meeting Advisory Task Force. Council, I'm not sure that an actual report is needed off this. We just spoke about it at our last meeting. What we're looking to do is create a committee to help do the review of all of the council committee preferences prior to our next organizational meeting. So before the motion's on the floor, I guess, if you are interested, please let it be known. Councillor Paynes, you've got interest? Bilodeau? Else? Okay, well, that makes a very clean motion. Would someone like to make that? We'll let Councillor Ostindi have it since you're. Yes.
I move that council appoints Mayor Hansen, Councillor Bilodeau, and Councillor Payne to the Organizational Meeting Advisory Task Force for a term to begin on June 23rd, 2026 and end on October 20th, 2026.
Great. Ms. Phillips.
Sorry, could we also get the motion to establish the committee so it's formalized?
Yes.
And that council establish the Organizational Meeting Advisory Task Force as presented in AIR 1438.
Excellent. Councillor Iwanicki, was that your catch as well? Great. We have a motion on the floor. Any comments? All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Council. Next, we'll move to the request to approve Deputy Mayor coverage, and I'll turn this one over to you, Councillor Ostindi.
This is to make sure there's coverage when I'm absent during part of the summertime. Like many of us, it was a little challenge to find people at different points. But I want to propose a resolution to cover Deputy Mayor, that Council appoint Councillor Iwanicki as alternate Deputy Mayor from July 8th to 13th, 2026, and that Council appoint Councillor Iwanicki as alternate Deputy Mayor from July 15th to 28th, 2026. And that Council appoint Councillor Mearns as alternate Deputy Mayor from August 6th to 8th, 2026, and that Council appoint Councillor Payne as alternate Deputy Mayor from August 10th to 16th, 2026.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you for the teamwork there.
Yes, thank you.
We have a motion on the floor. Any comments? All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Next, we'll move along to Ms. Phillips, 2 golf carts. Mr. Lepsack, potentially?
Do you want me to just highlight, or do you want to get up and speak to it? You might as well.
Sorry, I was looking at my agenda and drawing a blank.
I believe Mr. Lebsack's presenting, but he doesn't seem to be moving.
And for council's information, this is the report that was left on our desk. Mr. Lebsack, happy to have you introduce the change that's being proposed.
Sorry, Your Worship, I was just going along with the agenda there. Yeah, so I guess just the quick update there, you can see the amendment that's in front of you. What happened was, so at the last meeting, made the amendment to the original bylaw for commercial use. I sent that off to the province because they need to sign off on it, and spoke with them on the phone this morning after they reviewed our bylaw that we had passed. And they're, I'll call it, strongly making the recommendation that we increase commercial insurance policies to minimum $5 million, where it says their residential is $2 million and commercial would be $5 million. That was the only one that they were going to kind of stand strong on, and so that's the only amendment that we have to bring forward today.
Sure. So for clarity, if we were making this change to change the commercial to a $5 million minimum insurance, then we resubmit it back and then we wait again for approval?
Correct, and I believe that if we get this in, I'm going to suggest by the end of day tomorrow. They made the indication that they will have it to us by the weekend, so by Friday.
Wonderful.
Close of day Friday. Yeah.
Great. Would someone like to make a motion for first reading? Councillor Stindy.
I move that council approves first reading of pilot project golf carts bylaw 1958-2026 as presented in report AIR 1427.
Excellent. Any debate or comment? Councillor Payne?
I would be remiss if I did not say I still think this is a horrible idea.
Thank you for your consistency, Councillor
My
Payne.
consistency is still about safety, and I do think that it will come a time when it will be horrible news that someone's been tragically injured, because these things do not belong on busy town streets.
Any other comments? Great. We have a motion on the floor by Councillor Ostindi. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Would someone like to make a motion for second reading? Councillor Burns.
Make a motion that council approve second reading of pilot project golf carts bylaw 1958-2026 as presented in report AIR 1427.
Great. Another opportunity. Seeing no hands. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Would someone like to make a motion to proceed to third reading? Councillor Bilodeau.
I'd like to make a motion that council grant consent to proceed to third reading to pilot project golf carts bylaw 1958-2026 as presented in report AIR 1427.
Ms. Phillips, are we unanimous or 2/3?
You need unanimous consent to proceed. And
Okay.
a reminder, unanimous consent doesn't necessarily mean you agree with the bylaw, but you're okay with it proceeding with third reading tonight.
Sure. All right, we have a motion by Councillor Bilodeau. All those in favor to proceed to third reading? And opposed? Great. We will continue with third reading at the next meeting. Thank you. Okay. Next, we'll move to the emergent motion. Councillor Johannesson.
Yes, so I would like to move that council approve a motion regarding a parking pass program to proceed without notice.
Sure. Council, we need 2/3 majority to proceed with conversation and allow the notice of motion to be introduced to us. Councillor Payne.
Can I just ask a question of clarity before?
Sure.
So I asked Councillor, what's your last name again? Johannesson.
Holy.
I asked Councillor Johannesson privately, but I think it would be on the record. This is a business parking pass program that's being suggested?
Sure. That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. We need to vote on if we'd like to hear this emergent notice of motion. So all those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Johannesson, go ahead.
Sure. So we've received a number of concerns from businesses in our community that, you know, their businesses are being affected by our parking rates. And I think we were a little short-sighted as a whole, myself included. The idea for me bringing forward the, you know, $50 a day at the lot was not to punish businesses or people going to those businesses, but it was to pay for our beach. And I view it not as a parking fee, but as a fee to use our beach, since we legally can't charge people to come to our beach, and the beach costs us money. So in the crossfire of this are some businesses, including one that reached out with the House of Music. And so the motion is simply that administration be directed to research and report back to council on the feasibility of establishing a parking pass program for customers of businesses like the House of Music, people who attend music lessons, etc. I think we should do consultation with businesses and the House of Music to identify whether it be lessons, peak lesson times, or karate times, or taekwondo, or whatever the case may be for people that come out of town to use those businesses, to review available municipal parking resources, current parking bylaws, and any existing permit or validation programs, options for implementation such as time-limited passes, designated spaces, validation stickers, or partnerships with local businesses, potential costs and revenue implications, administrative requirements and impacts on other users or residents, legal and policy considerations under the Municipal Government Act and town policies, and recommendations on whether to proceed with a pilot program or full implementation. I think this is something that is needed for our businesses. I think people that come for music lessons or karate or theater, whatever it might be, that's not the purpose of the parking fees. In my mind, the purpose of the parking fees was for people that come and use our beach to pay, not to punish people that are going to their lessons, especially their kids that are there for a half an hour, might be the issue. So that's what I would like to see. I would like to see us help our businesses in this way, and for administration to report back to what kind of options that we have to make that happen for businesses.
Council, we'll start with questions. Councillor Mearns.
So I'm pretty sure it's a question. Councillor Johannesson, while you recused yourself, the notion of a study with our businesses. So I'm just wondering if that could be part of what you're suggesting with this study, and it's supposed to come back to us by the end of October.
Yeah, okay, then, yeah, I wasn't obviously here for that, but yeah, that makes sense to me, yeah.
Great. Councillor Ostindi for a question? I had a similar question just in what would be a reasonable time frame to have this conversation. My thought is likely with the information, if we're doing business consultation, it likely is in that off-season roundup. Is that what you had in mind, Ms. Phillips, as well?
That would definitely give us time to do a proper consultation and come up with a plan with all the requests in there, if that works for council.
Councillor Johannesson.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is pressing in a way. If there's a way to kind of push forward, even like I said, maybe a pilot program, it might be a little bit hasty, it might be maybe a little bit messy, but obviously taking into consideration meeting with businesses obviously will take time, but I do believe this is a pressing issue for our businesses, that they've made that clear, and I want them to know that we're listening, and if there's any way to come out with something temporary in the meantime, I would like to possibly see that as well if possible. So I don't want to put too much work on you guys either. I know this is difficult, but.
If that was the will of council, Mr. Lepsak, is there anything we could bring back in my concern being, and I believe he should, oh, there we go. I'm getting messages, because we have to set up, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we have to set any of these programs up with the hotspot program. They don't just happen overnight. So as he was commenting the Monday to Thursday, we may not get that information or know whether they can do it or not in the next, we might not get that information back until late in the summer. And I think we'd be in the same boat with this. I think that would be the challenge. I mean, we could look into it, and if there is something we could bring back on a more timely manner, we could definitely bring that back, but I think it would be challenging. Okay. There's other things we can recommend, like, again, if there's a way for them to connect with the landowner to get access to the license plates, where they could then register the license plates of someone specifically, coming in for lessons. There might be some options there. Okay. And how many are residents, so again, is it that one-off where it's the occasional one from out of town, or is it a business that's getting a lot from out of town?
Okay.
Yeah. Stindy, and then I'll jump in next if I could.
I can support this motion because it's not just a survey of business, it's a specific angle of inquiry and thought in terms of setting up potential program. I suspect some aspects of some programs will be super complicated, much like you know, the issue of towing on private property. We've run into that one before and found great obstacles. Trying to be in partnership with some businesses. But I think Councillor Johannesson's, it's just, the solutions aren't just high tech, they're sometimes workarounds. For instance, people who carry a handicap sticker, they do not get ticketed. They park for free in designated places. Or, you know, call it the old-fashioned paper ways outside of these apps that we can do things. So not to say it can happen fast. I'm not going to argue that it must happen fast. I'm making the argument that let's get talking. Let's make sure our consultation with businesses includes this inquiry, this angle, and for those kind of reasons, I support the motion.
I'll say I also support the motion, but I would ask for it to stop after the first paragraph there and not include all of the additionals. And I think that could be further information. But the reason for that request is many of those detail one specific business. And I think if we are looking at some sort of a program, there are dentist office, doctor's offices, eye care, like there's many other businesses. I certainly wouldn't want to single out a program that only helps one business and not the others. And really that essentially that first two sentences does give the directive of going out, gathering some information and having it come back. So if the motion was just a bit more concise and included that, and then it doesn't exclude anyone, absolutely support getting some information back. Councillor Payne.
I do think Councillor Ostindi is onto something here, and it's a thought that I had right at about the same time, so I think we think alike sometimes, but I think the solution to this is an old school solution. So I think there's lots of opportunity for ideas that may not necessarily need technology to be implemented or to be manipulated. So I think this is a great motion. I would support it.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same thing. Not that I think like Jazz, because I don't forget my last name or his ever, but especially since I've known you for 10 years, you'll never forget that. But I think that would be an interesting idea. Like if there was a way to give, you know, for example, the House of Music or any of those types of businesses, little placards that they could, you know, they come in for their lesson, they give that, they put that in their car. It's a half-an-hour thing, makes it easy. It's not tied to hotspot, but we kind of give those out to businesses for people who are there for those types of activities. I think that would be a really, at least in the short term, would be a good solution.
Yes, Ms.
Sorry, so if I can get clarity, we're looking at a long-range study, look into this, bring back information, but then I'm also hearing, can we start something like this fairly quickly? Do you want the discussion, the information brought back, and then a decision, or do you want us to come back at the next meeting and say, if we do placards, it would be a, you know, printed piece of paper that they'd get stamped by the town, I'm making stuff up here, that we give to every business in the downtown, and do you want something like that brought back immediately? Or is that a separate motion that would have to be debated by council? I'm not clear on exactly what we're looking for.
Let's do a quick round on the preference there, knowing we have one meeting left before our summer break. So are we looking for thorough, or are we looking for a short-term, not consulting decision? Councillor Payne, we'll do a quick round on that.
I think getting the information back and making informed decisions, I think we've already learned from this parking situation that if we make decisions too quickly, they come back and bite us in the rear end. So I think let's get the information back. Let's take a look and see what the possibilities are. We already solved one of the problems today by changing our fees bylaw. You know, I think a lot of the issue is going to be solved there, but I do support Councillor Johannesson's motion in that I think getting the information back and exploring this possibility of a business exemption for whether it's placards or whatever the case might be. Let's start with getting the information and then move into ideas as we go, knowing that one of our problems are already solved earlier tonight.
I would say both. I would like to, my original motion, getting the kind of the long-term feedback and program. but also in the short term, being able to come up with whatever might be, placards, pieces of paper stamped by the town, give them to businesses for those situations, I think would be a really good step, and really showing people and businesses especially that we are listening to the feedback. It's been immense, obviously.
Yeah, I don't want to specifically direct admin any more than the motion does and what was already just said, in that I want them to come back with free-flowing thoughts, which it could include the simple solutions and the longer-term plan. I don't want to direct any more than what we've generally already said, and myself too.
So I'm comfortable with that as well. I do really want to see business consultation. My conversation this afternoon with the business owner, one of the biggest concerns was they felt like this was rushed, that they weren't properly asked if this would work for them. And I really don't want to make that mistake, so I'd like to do it right. But of course, as quickly as we're able to do that, that's great. Councilor Iwanicki.
I just struggle to see the urgent nature of this. I'd rather just get some more information back so we can revisit it in October. For the most part, aside from some rate changes, which we've more or less sorted out, the parking program is the same as it was last year. Like, yeah, well, there's a couple more streets added onto it. So I would be more in favor of just instructing administration to do that survey, look into things and bring something back, than, as we've heard a few times, the word rush, than rush a Band-Aid that I don't think is really solving a necessary pressing issue.
I think with the changes to the rates that we've just made this evening, we're in the right direction for this summer, and I am a little bit concerned about just making another quick change. So I really do think we need to do our homework on this. And I don't think that there's, getting through this summer, if it takes us into the fall to do this study or to have the consultations with these businesses, having it be more than one, because I don't think we can change any bylaw for one business. I don't think that's probably fair. But, we've created that zone right next to the House of Music at $2 an hour from 5. So I think that we've done what we need to do in the short term. So I'm good with taking our time and doing it right for the consultation.
Yeah, I'll agree with Councillor Bilodeau. I think we've made the right decisions tonight. And prior to this, House of Music, if they were coming for an hour, they had to pay 50. Now they'll pay 10 or as low as 2 if they decide to park on the street. So I think we've addressed the major concerns. Let's get the information back and make a decision that way.
Councillor Johannesson, can I get you to read the top portion of your motion just one more time to make sure we have that clear?
Yep, and just to be clear, I wasn't just speaking about House of Music. It was one of the ones. It was everyone like that. But yeah, so the motion is that administration be directed to research and report back to council on the feasibility of establishing a parking pass program for customers of businesses, consultation with these businesses to identify peak lessons or camps or whatever it might be, and review of available municipal parking resources, current parking bylaws, and any existing permit or validation programs.
That's great. Thank you. Any additional comments on that, Council? Great. Councillor Ostindi.
One comment, just in the sense of one of the biases in the types of business is the appointment-based versus the other types. So dentists, music lessons, those are appointment-based, and that's a unique situation that's to be thought of differently than any other business.
Great, we've got a motion on the floor to receive further information. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. Next, we'll move along to correspondence and information items. We've got a number before us. Any questions on those? Seeing none, we'll move along to the CAO report. Ms. Phillips.
The CAO report is in your agendas for any comments or questions. Did you want highlights or just... We've been kind of doing it that way the last few meetings, so I wasn't sure where you wanted me to go.
See, this meeting is nice. It's not 9 o'clock. So
I can read a few highlights if you'd like. So we had a great start to the season with some of our events starting. Big Squeeze Lemonade Trail, a shout out to Amanda, she did a fantastic job. I think I drank 10 different types of lemonade that day, it was fun. And then of course 1913 Days, same shout out to Denise, she did a great job, and a great shout out to the entire team. I know it took a lot of our departments to make that happen this weekend, along with National Indigenous People Day, which was on Sunday with, and again, I'm giving all the shout outs, so to Tom as well and his team for the success there. And then of course, we're starting all our summer programming at the Community Center and the Next Source. Construction's well underway at the Picador Park. We're seeing some action there around the pickleball and the multipurpose field. It's the ones I've really noticed out there. We started this year with weekly beach monitoring samples, which is new requirement from Alberta Health Services. And we're also doing our storm pond sampling. And then we were selected for the Small Municipalities Innovation Award as a runner-up for our Reclaimed Asphalt program, which is kind of a neat one. So, yeah, those are the highlights.
I can start with a question. Around Plougadal Park, how are we working with the user groups to keep them informed of the status? I'm thinking pickleball, their club, the football club. What does that regular communication look like throughout the construction season? And only because I was so familiar with that process as we went through the process with the NextSource build, and we had those user groups really invested in it. Curious, does it look the same? And are they all up to date just as much as we are?
Your Worship, I would say the user groups that are up there right at the moment, we're in contact with them, if not weekly, almost daily, the ones that are currently using the facility. The new ones, such as the pickleball club, football, soccer, we're probably giving them monthly updates or even at certain time frames when certain milestones are being met, but not as regular as the ones that are currently up there every day, every week.
That's great. And then I guess my secondary ask is, once we get further along in this construction season, but during 2026, I would love the opportunity to invite those user groups up, potentially with the Plougadal Park Design Committee and anyone on council that's available to join, to show them that progress as we near completion. And I know one of the things we scheduled through the NextSource was a couple times throughout the process, we were able to bring in those user groups and really get them invested along the way and show them the progress. It'd be great to do that on this facility too, with all of those upcoming groups, soccer, pickleball, and football.
Yeah, Your Worship, absolutely, we will do that. At this point in time, with the rain we've had the last 2 weeks, all you get to see up there is mud and dirt, but we'll soon be seeing a lot more up there.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, we've always wanted an outdoor pool. Councillor Oosthuizen.
Just thinking about that national recognition for pavement, you know, I was talking last meeting, we directed our program of communications around all our pothole repairs. A lot of what we do isn't exciting sometimes, but here's another one to tie in with that. You know, our pavement enhancement or repair program, here we're being recognized for the way we do business here in our Public Works Department. I think that's a nice tie-in of what we were talking about last time. And I think we should use some of that asphalt for the road out to the transfer station and maybe Plougadal Park too. It's pretty muddy out there, but the rains have stopped at least for 2 days.
Thank you. Any additional questions on that report? Seeing none. Do we have any council requests for information or updates that weren't mentioned? Councillor Cindy.
I'm not sure if this is the right spot. Updates is, it will come up in my report next week's agenda regarding stream testing in the Medicine River Watershed Society. We had talked previously about the idea of our town being able to use equipment from the Watershed Society, and that is a go. They've bought the equipment and their program is up and running now. So if our admin connects with their program, we could do a stream testing in our community, you know, at our convenience. And it might lead to the Medicine River Watershed Society, yeah.
Excellent.
And, yeah.
That's great. Okay, council, next we will move into our closed session. Would someone like to make that motion? Councillor Mearns.
Make a motion the council move to a closed meeting to discuss advice from officials. This item shall remain confidential pursuant to Section 29(1) of the Access to Information Act, SA 2024, CA 1.4, and Section 197(2) of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000 M26.
Thank you, Councillor Mearns. All those in favor? And opposed? We will take 5 if anyone needs it, and then head to the Luzelle room. to make a motion to take us out of closed session. Councillor Johannes.
Sure, I move that closed session concludes and council reverts back to the regular meeting of council.
Excellent. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Councillor Mearns.
I make a motion that administration work with the Waters Edge Villa to enter into agreement to remove the easement for public access with the full cost of the trail relocation to be the responsibility of the Waters Edge Villa.
Thank you, Council. Any further comment? All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Council, we've reached the end of our agenda. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.